Hello. Today we are discussing the German elections. We have had pretty consistent coverage, well, as long as the show has been consistent. I believe we've had a segment on German elections in basically every show since probably around May. And the reason why is because the German elections are extremely important to see what is going to occur not just in Europe, but the world at large. Germany is the fourth, maybe third, but I believe fourth. Japan might be third. The fourth largest economy in the world, and it's also the largest economy in the EU, and it also, which the EU is, depending on how you measure it, the first or second largest economy in the world. And Germany is the linchpin of the EU. It is the country around which the EU revolves. France would like it to be them, but it is Germany now. So understanding German politics is extremely important. Of course, the chancellor right now is Angela Merkel, who is perhaps the most well-known leader inside the Western world, who is not the American president. So Angela Merkel has been around since 2005, I believe, after the election with Gerhard Schroeder. That was a pretty hard-fought election, but Merkel did end up winning. And her party, the CDU, seems to be, according to The Economist, in the lead. So I actually recorded something in the past about this, and I said that the SPD was in the lead, but I decided to record a new one because now the CDU is in the lead, which kind of changes a bit of the analysis there. Okay, so the CDU's candidate is Armin Laschet. The CDU, it says CDU-CSU. The CDU, or the Christian Democratic Union, is the major center-right party in Germany. It is the one led by Angela Merkel, as I mentioned. And it is in an alliance with the CSU, which is the Christian Social Union. The Christian Social Union, if you look here, is in blue. And of course, you can kind of see it's basically exists only in one region, which is Bavaria. And why is that, you may ask? Well, Bavaria is what I like to call Germany's Texas. It primarily is only really barely, I mean, it's not barely German, but it's Catholic. It has a different national character than the rest of Germany, which is Protestant. At least the rest of Germany, in a certain sense, is Protestant or atheist. But Bavaria has a different national character, and it's pretty fiercely nationalist, maybe not to the extent of like Catalonia or Quebec, but it is nationalist in its own right. So they are in a union. That union has had some questions over the years, but it's basically existed for a while. So the CDU has a very strong power base. You can see that it's mostly rural areas in Germany and Bavaria. So, and also Baden-Württemberg, which is the southwest of Germany. So Germany, the CDU is probably going to do well in this election. In fact, The Economist slates it to be the largest party in a 2 out of 3 margin. In a while back, that was actually the SDP, which is the Social Democratic Party of Germany, the SPD, actually in German, Sozialdemokratische Partei Deutschland. And it is led by Olaf Scholz, who is a fairly moderate leader. And Scholz, not very inspiring, but he seems to be someone who the majority of the country could at least live with. It seems like he may not get the majority, the plurality, actually, that he was slated to get last week, but he may still do well there. The Greens, which has been the party that I've been very interested in, I have had, I believe, several different videos on Annalena Baerbock and her leadership of the Greens. The Greens are doing not as well as they were expected to do. If you look at the polling, which I believe is down here, the Greens, this is from 2020 onwards, the Greens had actually overtaken the SPD as a major party in the left, in fact, even overtaking the Greens, or the CDU in May, and then they kind of disappeared as a result of, well, they didn't disappear because they're still the third largest party, which I don't believe has ever occurred in German history, but the Greens had a lot of media criticism, and Baerbock was not really able to handle that, and it kind of went to crap. So, since 2017, you can kind of see the Greens and CDU have been in that argument for a while, actually. Okay, so Those are the three major parties. There are other parties, however. The AfD, or Alternative for Germany, Alternative für Deutschland, they are led by Alice Weidel, or Weidel, actually. And they are a far-right anti-immigration party. They were actually doing fairly poorly if we look at the polls. This is too long. They were doing fairly poorly, but it seems like they may have ticked up a little bit. I remember them not getting many seats, or slated to get much less seats than normal, but it seems like they have increased inside their popularity since then, perhaps because of the Afghan refugee crisis that may be occurring in the next few months. So maybe the Germans are just trying to get ready for that, although the AfD is kind of terrible. They really exist primarily in the east of Germany, especially in Saxony. So the AfD may have their own problems there. The FDP, or the Free Democratic Party, is a neoliberal party in the actual sense of the term neoliberal. They are center-right, and they have been a bit fast and loose with masks. They are anti-Merkel's they're anti-Merkel's COVID policy, and they have increased as a result of that. At least that's what I have heard. There is a bit of a question there. The left, or Die Linke, is really on its last leg. Die Linke is the successor of the East German Communist Party, which I want to call the SED, but I think that's the wrong acronym. Regardless, they are part of that movement, and through many different iterations, they eventually became Die Linke that we know today. Die Linke primarily does well in the east of Germany. However, also they do well in cities. So Die Linke is kind of doing a bit more poorly. In 2017, by the way, this is a 2017 map, AfD actually took a lot of Die Linke voters, so you can kind of see it's not that ideological. It tends to be a nostalgia party in some parts of East Germany, at least before 2017, when it became a more widely accepted left-wing party. Well, widely accepted among left-wingers. They're not doing very well, and perhaps will be kept out of any negotiation for a coalition. So, Germany always has coalition parties, coalition governments, and they tend to be led by the largest party in parliament, in the Bundestag, not the Reichstag, that kind of left in the 30s. However, they are the largest party in the Bundestag, and the largest party tends to hold coalitions. So the coalition that seems the most likely is the traffic light coalition between the SPD, the Greens, and the FDP. That is something that would be a more moderate, sort of almost a caretaker government. I don't really see what they would agree on, other than continuing center-left policies, and that seems to be the most likely scenario. The other scenario that is also likely, and perhaps even more likely, given how much Jamaica has been talked about in recent years, but Jamaica has been tried and it failed, or it hasn't been tried, but they tried to have Jamaica in 2017 and that failed. The Jamaica coalition seems to be doing fairly poorly in terms of what may happen. So that would be CDU, Greens, and FDP coming together. I don't really see what they would agree on either. They're all centrist parties, but centrist parties tend to do very little, so there's a question of that. There is then the left coalition, which would be SPD, Greens, and Die Linke. The issue with that is that Die Linke might not even be in parliament because you need 5% of the vote to be in parliament. And Die Linke might get less than 5% of the vote, meaning that they wouldn't be in parliament. Also, Die Linke has generally been verboten, to use a German term. There hasn't really been a need for them to be in a coalition government, so they haven't been in one. Also, Die Linke is fairly anti-US, fairly anti-NATO. In fact, they want the US to leave NATO, or Germany, to leave NATO. So there is a question about whether that could even be a coalition, given that Scholz has ruled out working with parties that want to leave NATO. The final one, which is the least likely to happen in my view, even though they will likely get a majority of seats, is the Große Coalition, or the Grand Coalition, between the SPD and CDU. That is what is currently ruling Germany, and neither party likes it, so it's unlikely that that will continue. The final one, which would probably get the largest coalition, but fairly silly, would be SPD, CDU, FDP, which is the Germany coalition because it's black, red, and yellow. Probably won't happen. And then there are other coalitions that are even less likely to happen. Okay, so those are the major coalitions that you're probably going to be likely to see. I would say you're probably going to see the traffic light coalition, and you're probably going to see, I would actually still put my bet that you're probably going to likely see Scholz as the victor of this election. Laschet might do well, but we are yet to see that. So just something for me to say, I'd probably vote Green in this election if I could vote in Germany, but take from that what you will. Okay, so with that, this is my final update on the German election because it's occurring tomorrow. So if you liked that analysis, definitely like and subscribe. I will definitely be talking about this later after the election results come out. So comment, tell me who you would vote for in the German elections. Critique my analysis, even if it doesn't need critiquing. And, let me know what you think in the comments. So like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.